My dear respected brothers, we start first and foremost by praising Allah Azza wa Jal, the King, the Master, the Sustainer, the Creator of everything that we see and everything that we don't see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who every single living thing relies on Him, and He relies on nobody. This is the greatness of Allah Azza wa Jal. Every single one of us exists because Allah allows us to exist. None of us are walking around now due to our own free will or due to our own abilities. We are here because Allah allows us to be here. We send peace and blessings upon His beloved creation, His best creation, and that is our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, our teacher, our master. And my brothers, I remind myself and I remind you all to have fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. To have fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. The brothers were asking me to maybe touch on dunya, touch on the topic of dunya. And there's a beautiful story that I always like to narrate. The story is mentioned in Al-Isra'iliyat, and I'm sure if any one of you was to jump on YouTube and put in the 3 loaves of bread, you'll get the story. It's a very, very deep story. It has a lot of meaning to it. And I want to share it today because it deals directly with the issue of dunya. And the story has it says that Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was traveling with some of his companions. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was traveling with some of his companions. So they got hungry. So they got together and they collected whatever money they could, and then they appointed one man and said to him, "How about you go into the town and whatever you can buy with this money, buy us some food so that we can eat." So this companion, he took the money and he goes into the town, and when he gets into the town, he uses his money and he realizes that all that this money could buy was 3 loaves of bread. Now automatically, and please, when you listen to the story, try to live the story, not just be entertained by it, you know. Put yourself in this man's shoes. So he looks at the 3 loaves of bread and he's starving. He's thinking, man, there's a lot of companions back there and there's only 3 loaves of bread. If I take this back, how much am I really going to eat? So Shaytan whispers to him, gives him, that friendly advice. Says to him, look, how about you eat one? Go back and say that all you could buy was 2. And that's exactly what he did. So he ate one of them, went back to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, and gave him the 2 loaves of bread. So Isa says to him, who ate the 3rd? The man is baffled. Who ate the 3rd? He's thinking, how did he know? So automatically the first thing he did, and a lot of us tend to do this, what did he lied? He says, but there was only 2. He says, I only bought 2. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam didn't want to argue with the man. They carried on their journey. As they carried on their journey, the companions, they were successful in hunting the deer. So they seen the deer, they hunted it, they cooked, they all sat around and they ate this deer. So then Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Jesus, by the will of Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives life back to the deer in front of their very eyes. Gives it life. It came back to life. It stood in front of them and ran away. So he leans over to the man and says to him, I'm asking you, by the one that gave life to this deer, who ate that 3rd loaf of bread? The man insists. He says, but there was only 2. He says, there was only 2. So he didn't argue with him. They carried on their journey. Until eventually they got to like a flooded river. They had to cross the river, so they needed to get to the other side, and this river was flooded. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he gathers his companions, they all hold hands, and then by the will of Allah Azza wa Jal, He allows them to walk on the surface of the river, the surface of the water. They walked on the surface of the water and then they got to the other side. The men are amazed, a miracle in front of their very eyes. When they reach the other end, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he leans over to the man and he says to him, I'm asking you, by the one that allowed us to walk on the surface of the water, who ate that 3rd loaf of bread? The man says, but there was only 2. He says, there was only 2. I only bought 2. So they carried on. Until eventually they reached a place, they reached a particular destination where they sat down. And Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, with his blessed hands, he had collected some dirt, and he pulled together 3 piles of dirt. And then by the greatness of Allah Azza wa Jal, by Allah, He turns the dirt into gold and calls the man over. He says, one pile is for you, one pile is for me, and the third pile is for the one that ate that third loaf of bread. So the man doesn't waste a minute. He says, I ate the third loaf of bread. Now there's money involved. Now there's papers involved. He says, I ate the third loaf of bread. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam insisted, for you is all three piles of gold. You take everything. But you cannot join us anymore. This is where we divide. So this guy's thinking, who needs the Prophet and who needs the companions? Look at all this fortune I've made, you know. So now he's sitting back, he's planning out his future like many of us do. He's probably thinking, you know, I'll buy a house on the water and I'll use another pile to invest and then I'll use that money to pay for my, right? And then, you know, he's starting to do his calculations. Shortly after, these three thieves came along. They see the man and the three piles of gold. The first thing they did was they killed him. So now the three men are thinking, well, look, it's pretty straightforward. There's three piles of gold, there's three of us. But they too are hungry. So they spoke amongst one another and then they said, look, how about one of us takes some money, goes to the town, buys us some food, we'll come back, we eat together, everyone takes his money and we all go our separate ways. So one of them volunteers, he says, look, I'll go into the town. He grabs some money, he goes into the town, but then on the way he's starting to think. He's thinking, what's the bet? They're planning something against me. And while he was buying something, the other two are thinking, what's the bet? He's planning something against us. So the man gets there, he buys some food and then he poisons the food. On his return, the two killed him. They sit down to eat the food that he brought. Little did they know it was poisoned shortly after they also died. Some time later, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam walks back with his companions. He sees his former companion, the three thieves, and the three piles of gold untouched. So he leans over to his companions and he says to them, this is Hayatul Dunya. He says, this is the life of this world. And this is what it will do for whoever runs after it. My brothers, this dunya, as I've said many times, it's crippling the ummah. It's poisoned every single one of us. We have forgotten our purpose on earth. We have forgotten that we are going to a place that is far greater, and our vision has become extremely short-sighted, and all that we can think about, and all that we can dream about, and all that we can hope about, and all that we sleep about, and all that we work about, and all that we study about is this world. And what is the reality of this world, really? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, hadith after hadith, hadith after hadith, is exposing the reality of this world. What is it really? What do you take with you? He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, يَتْبَعُ الْمَيِّتَ ثَلَاثًا أَهْلُهُ وَمَالُهُ وَعَمَلُهُ. The Prophet of Allah is saying, brother, three things will follow you to the grave. Three things will follow you to the grave. He says, your family, your wealth, and your deeds. He says two of these things will bury you there, and only, right? He says the three of them will take you, they will bury you. Two things will come home, and only one thing will remain with you there in the grave. He says your family and your money, they come back home, then they start fighting it out with one another. Nah, he left me this, nah, he left me that, nah, what did he leave for you? Nah, this is how much he left for me. And you and I, my brother, what are we left with at the grave? What are we left with? Nothing. We're left with nothing. We're left with what? We are left with our amal. Shaytan makes us think, you know, we're so hungry, we're so eager for this world. We're collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting, and for what? Brother, you can't take it with you when you go. When they bury you naked like the day your mother gave birth to you. You don't take anything with you. What did one of the kings of the past say? He says, when you bury me and stick my hands out of the grave. So his men were thinking, you know, what's... We're not understanding this sticking the hands out of the grave. He says, let it be known to the world that this king, when he went, he took nothing with him. He went empty-handed. He went empty-handed that brother, he took nothing with him.